You are perfect in the. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Troy Rawlings here. Another exciting episode of Meet the. I have this wonderful, amazing, um, beautiful inside sister here. This um, activist, community activist, businesswoman, trainer, teacher, coach, and I originally met her, and she was teaching a course at the Comics Rock convention. Big shout out to my girl Hope Flood. And and if you hear the wind and see everything blowing and look at this, and this, you know how some of you guys who I interviewed, you know who you are, have these backdrops. That's not a backdrop. She's actually in a barn. Give it up for Sherita Herring-Oglesby. Oglesby?
Oglesby, yes.
What's going on, Sherita?
Yes.
And she is in.
Everything.
Tell everybody what you're.
Oh my gosh, I am in Hattieville, Arkansas, and I'm sitting here right now in a 150-year-old barn, or about 100. And this family's been in my family a very long time. My grandmother was 82, I think, when she died, and she was one of 13 siblings that was born in the old house that's right there. And this land was handed down to her, my great-grandfather, her father, from his father. So we're still digging to find out how long it's been in the family, but I can safely say more than 100+ years. So, yeah.
So she was in another part of her land because she's homesteading. They got farmland. It's crazy. And I just want y'all to know, so if it gets windy or the reception she's outside in the barn, y'all. The Wi-Fi is in the RV near the house. It's crazy. But the fact that we have this reception, I said, look, stay there because that background is gorgeous. And it's fitting. Well, let's go all the way back.
And this inspires me. I've started painting again. There's some things that just being here on the land, it's crazy, Troy, how inspired I am, and how even though winter is coming, I hate that I won't be able to sit out here even more often. So,
amazing.
I'm here.
Well, let me say this. Some of you, and I'm talking to the audience now, some of you know, some of you have nonprofits, have been thinking about doing nonprofits, things like that. Some of you recognize her because I sent you her hour-long webinar, just because I don't know what to say about you. Some people you meet and they immediately change your life just by their presence. And I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not blowing smoke. This is just who she is. And she just carries this aura with her, this spirit about her that's giving. You find a lot of people who are into grant writing and nonprofits and stuff like that, but someone finds something and they just want to give it. Now, she's a businesswoman, but my God, you poured things into my life and helped me direct things with the coming Rawlings neighborhood. And you didn't know, certain times you call me and say, Troy, and give me an hour. And like, what international coach calls you and gives you an hour free coaching and say, okay, I'll talk to you later? Like, but
that says about who you are too, though. You're magnificent.
Oh, thank you. All right, now y'all see me in a tie. I haven't put on a tie in a while. It just went with. I just felt like it today, and I'm sitting there. And for y'all that don't know how to tie a tie, we'll do some tutorials. But so where are you originally from? We know you land in Arkansas. When I met you, I think you might have still been living here in Los Angeles when I met you.
I was. I moved to Los Angeles on July 19th, 1988 is when I pulled into Los Angeles with my 2 young sons, had no job, didn't know anyone except the great aunt that was letting me stay in her duplex for 6 months before I had to pay any lease to her. And so, and then after 30 years, decided that I wanted something more. My husband and I both wanted to live more in small town. And so that's how we ended up here in Arkansas. That's a whole nother story. There's so much more that's to that. But yes, born and raised in the city.
We'll have to do a part 2.
Okay.
But so you and your husband met in Los Angeles?
We actually did. But you know, the crazy thing is he was born not even 30 minutes from here in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which is how our conversation started. My husband and I actually met each other on Facebook. And I just totally stopped dating. And I said, Lord, I'm just going to wait on you. And you know how I realized that I had been poked, and I went, and it was all these pokes, and I'm just going down, delete, delete, delete. And my son was there, and I said, what is poking? And he said, Ma, that's people saying, hey, how you doing? He said, now, if it's a dude you don't know, he's saying, hey, how you doing? So I was like, okay. So I went over to his page because something about him made me stop. And the way I look at it now, I know it was nothing but God, because I'm deleting everybody else. And when I get to him, I go over to his page. And I'm sorry, neighbors, they do drive by and blow. And so I go over to a page, and I'm reading down his page, and I'm scanning down. And, you know, a lot of times when you see single guys, their page is full of tweaking. See, I'm old. Twerking, boobs, butts. But his page was him barbecuing, him with his nieces and aunts. And I could see that he's more of a domestic kind of guy. And I got ready to poke him back, and I was like, no. And I got ready to poke again. I was like, ah. So I waited. But I thought he was from Pine Bluff. So the next day, I go to get ready to poke him, and it's his birthday. And so I message him, and I said, look, I see you're from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. My dad is from that area. Maybe, look, my cat, look at this. My cat is literally climbing up in the barn.
Don't even worry. She's in a barn. She's
I'm
in
sorry.
a barn. Don't get all
And
this.
so,
This is real time. This is really happening.
Get down. And so, yes, I have 2 cats, 2 dogs, actually 6 dogs around me. So anyway, I said, look, I see that you're from Pine Bluff. My dad's from that area. Maybe we're cousins. He messaged back, I sure hope not. And I was like, oh, I was worse than a teenager. He and I got on the phone after messaging a little bit. We talked for 14 hours. And that was on February 5th, which was his birthday, 2016. Now, look, that was 4 years ago. My son was going to have an art opening 6 days later at the African American Museum. And after we had been on the phone all these hours every day, after about 6 days, I said, why don't you meet me at my son's gallery opening? And he came there, and we've been together ever since. And now we're married. And so, see, there's some wonderful stories. I thank God.
I'm a romantic dude. I'm a romantic dude. And mind you, I won't even touch on, because you wouldn't believe how old she is if I told you so. Because you look like you're a young.
I don't mind. I will be 61 this coming Sunday, November 8th. I will be 61, a week from today.
And I'm saying that because sometimes now you're gonna get me into the other side of me, the relationship side. Now, I'm saying that because a lot of people talk about giving up on love or giving up on this because you've been through so much, because you're just this point in life and this, that, and another. But I like that you said, I felt like a teenager. And I tell people, it better be giddy at the beginning, because you're going to hit some rocks. You better be excited. Yeah. You better be super about it. So, but also finding somebody, because you told me something key, and I'll get to more about your business side and the grandson. But you told me something key. You said, Troy, I wanted someone who would be cool with living on a farm. You said you wanted the next piece. You had this vision in your mind about, and I forgot when you said you found out about the property and how that all came about. Like I said, we got to do a part 2, because that in and of itself it's an amazing story.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to just, that's a blessing to someone that is like, well, I no. She was on Facebook, and it was just, but it wasn't like, now I'm not telling all y'all to run through your whole Facebook like 500 dudes. He's with a family. That might be his family. So calm down. But that's an exciting story, and it's telling people about, and it puts so much hope, but something deteriorates you. Smile. Like every time I've seen you, your smile lights up a room. So the person that you shouldn't pull from that. If you're with somebody, next thing you know, you're going to something wrong. People saying you, hey, Rita, what's wrong, baby? Yeah. No, I'm fine.
Yeah. If nothing else, Troy, it's important to get with someone that allows you to be truly who you are. And that's why when you meet someone, don't pretend to be anything else, because then now you got to convince them to like the other person that you start to let out. Be yourself from the very beginning. And one of the reasons why I found out that he wanted to leave California is I told him, You know what? Prior to meeting you, I literally was looking at possibly moving to Paris. I wanted to live in the countryside in Paris, in France. And I said, that's one of my roosters. And I said,
She's on
and
the
he said,
wait. She's on a farm. Y'all ain't understand what there's Wi-Fi, and that's why I'm letting it, she in a barn on a Sunday.
yeah.
Her place looks like CBS Sunday Morning behind her, y'all. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just say, be who you are always, because you can only be who you are not for so long, and you got to remember that. You can only be who you are not for so long. So be yourself. Look at this. Get down, girl.
This is real time. I'm letting y'all, there's no editing. We ain't editing out the cat climbing on the wall, the rooster. It's old McDonald's piece.
And you know what the craziest thing, and you and I shared this with you earlier, where they were on the other side, but see, they follow my voice. Or if my husband was out here, they follow him. Your animals want to be around and also pull from you. And now they're in here running crazy. They're excited like I'm outside. So you've got to excuse them.
I want to jump into how you got into it, because very interesting story. You talked about, I remember you talking about, this is kind of when it got to telling people about grants and helping nonprofits get money and businesses and stuff like that. You were doing that like in high school.
Oh yeah. You know what? We are who we are. And even in high school, I was always part of the committees that helped to raise funding for different programs and services. Then when I get out of high school, before I even started grant writing, I'm part of community organizations to help stabilize and benefit community, develop programs for youth. Then I become the director at a YMCA. And I started out there as their IT director, because I've always been into computers. Before I went there, I was working for Sprint, which used to be United Telecom. And but we will always gravitate to who we are. And so even being there at the Y, development of programs and services just is part of my DNA. As a young girl, Troy, if you go all the way back and look at yourself, I was that kid that if we were playing kickball in the middle of the street and Mr. Brown, who was the senior on our block, is up there raking his yard, I'm like, hey, y'all, we should go up there and help Mr. Brown rake his yard. I'm not going up there. So I was the only kid who would go up and help Mr. Brown rake his yard. Or if Miss Evans pulled up and I knew she had groceries in the car, I'm going and helping her take in her groceries. You can't stop showing up who you naturally are. And statistics show that it reveals who you are and your passion and your journey that you should be on by the time you're 5 years old. How often do we see a kid running around and say, that kid gonna run? Or there's another kid that's always talking, that kid gonna mess around and be an actor or a politician. We do that, but we don't nurture it for individuals to go further into what is natural to them. And that's why I know that I'm jumping around, but that's why I love the nonprofit arena so much, because it allows
you're dead on. Dead on.
Yeah, it allows you to be who you are, just what you love. And one of the things that I say in this is I want to show you how you can do what you love until you're dirt again. Right now, you don't have to wait until you retire. And it allows you to do that so smoothly. And since I've been in this arena since 1994 is when I truly jumped in, but I was a director at the Y in 1998 there in Los Angeles. And I saw the magic of what it does. I saw the ability of what it allows, no matter what someone's title is or how much money they have. Because when you step into this arena, you step in on the same footing. You step in the same even ground. And it's who you are as far as what you want to do in your programs on how much it's going to rise or stay flat. But it doesn't have to do with your credit rating. It doesn't have to do with your income, any of that.
So you get started, you're doing things in high school, you leave high school, you go to college? Because I don't know.
I only took classes. I don't even have a degree. And for a very long time, I used to be afraid to tell people that. But then I thought, I know what I know. I haven't met anyone yet that knows this arena better than I do, and I even train law firms in nonprofit arena, nonprofit development and nonprofit law. You know,
Say
the
that again, girl.
degree.
You're preaching on a Sunday now. Say it again. You train.
See that degree just shows that you have the stick-to-itiveness to get that sheet of paper. But I have more than 30 years of stick-to-itiveness that allows me to train the individuals that have that piece of paper.
You're
And
training
I'm
people
proud
with
of that.
JDs. Did you say you're training JDs?
Yes, yes, yes. I actually have trained at the university, and I've trained college professors in how to get funding for their programs and services.
So there's a person out there right now watching this, and they have because I know people on both sides. I know people that are sitting on nonprofits and they're trying to get conceivably pennies. The big thing you got, the class I saw you teach, it was called There's a Grant for That. And you talked about, I think, the NBA, the NFL, the PGA. I think it might have been Mozilla or Firefox or somebody. And you went round down the list of organizations that were nonprofits.
Well, the NFL had been a nonprofit since its inception. They changed their status in 2015. Now, understand that the teams are not nonprofit, but the league is nonprofit. The PGA is a nonprofit, the National Hockey League. Now, a lot of people frown on that, but see, that's just because of the lack of knowledge as far as the nonprofit industry that they don't know. There's 29 different kinds of nonprofits. And the reason why it benefits those leagues and the cities where they operate, as far as their stadiums, is because they're able to take advantage of certain tax breaks because of all the jobs they create. Think about one game and how many jobs that one game creates. So with them having a nonprofit status, it afforded them the ability, and that was one of the carrots to make individual owners to go to particular cities. What else does that help with? It helps with tourism. Think about every time when someone comes to a game, how many people come in early and go to restaurants? Or if they've come far, how many of them get hotels and stay overnight? Not to mention all of the people that work at the stadium, and then not to mention all the people that the jobs and businesses that is keeping afloat outside of the stadium, from straw makers to cup makers to the individuals delivering the beef so that it can be cooked there. I mean, just think about it. But people don't think about that. Plus, they don't realize the significance of the nonprofit arena and our GDP, the gross domestic profit of the United States. The nonprofit arena is the third largest business sector in the United States, only behind manufacturing and retail. The third largest. Now, what else that should show people is that nonprofit doesn't mean you can't make a profit. Nonprofit just means that it is a non-stock corporation, but it is a corporation. It is a business. Okay.
And I told y'all, if y'all see me looking down taking notes, that means you should be taking notes. But this is going to be on IGTV, YouTube, everywhere, so you can share it around and stuff like that. And I had to ask Sherita. I was like, are you still doing? And I asked was she still doing what she was doing, because it seemed when someone's a Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Simone Biles, the young little snap.
Yeah.
You know, when they're that Michael Phelps, when you're that good at something you do, it looks effortless to the point where it looks like that's bringing her too much joy. She's doing that too well. Okay, what else do you do? And one time I called her, she was like, well, Troy, I do a lot of speaking and I'm training people, but she's speaking with like Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, and people, you hit the road. Well, of course now you're not hitting the road as much. And I asked, did you still take clients and stuff? He said, yeah, I still train people. I still take clients. I still,
Absolutely.
But you said it's such
From
a
right
passion.
here in this barn.
What'd you say?
From right here in this barn.
Right. And did y'all hear me say earlier she was in the barn? Y'all see all this wind? That's not a backdrop. I'm saying that because they sell backdrops. They're like, oh, I love the cabin back. That is real. Those are real sunflowers, right? Are they real? There was a cat. Y'all missed the earlier part of the interview. There was a cat.
That is 100-year-old plus wood that I didn't want to get rid of. That I told my husband, do whatever you can just to shore this building up. So
when I tell you, gorgeous background, gorgeous things. But I love it because, like you said, you're being yourself. You're flowing in your passion. What are some of the key things that you run into, or let's go this way since we're going higher. Let's keep it higher. What's one of the greatest success stories you've seen with somebody that just had an idea of a nonprofit and you helped them take it over the edge?
Well, a lot of people know her, Lisa Nichols.
Mm.
Lisa was like my baby sister. I actually named Motivating the Masses while we were standing in line at the county registrar's office. And I'm filling out her paperwork. And I was Lisa's first business coach. And I named Motivating the Masses. And at the time, she was working for the girls club when I met her. And then we actually beefed up her resume, and she got this job with Connie at People Who Care Youth Center. And we thought that was the greatest thing, right? I think at that time she started out making $45,000 a year, and she came home and we celebrated. And Lisa was one of those that if I had $10, she got 5 of it. And so, yes, watching Lisa. And I remember when she was getting ready to be on Oprah after The Secret came out, and she and her grandmother were in the limo, and they were riding there, and she called me and she said, Ree, she always called me Ree. She said, thank you, because, you helped me see some things that I just did not see. And then also, I coach Les, and Les Brown is such an awesome person to be with, just in personal space. And then there's individuals that most people will never know, and especially now because he passed away. But Rodney Shepherd was a major developer there in Los Angeles, and his company RSS Development was right there on 83rd and Vermont, and he had done a lot of development around Watts, developed like a 90-bed senior facility there in Watts, and I developed his nonprofit Global Link, and Rodney is the largest single grant that I helped to secure, and it was over 14 million. And he was getting ready to develop this property in Watts, California, called the Landsit Project. And just about 5 months after getting the grant and the grant okayed, and before it was awarded to his company, Rodney passed of a massive heart attack. And but there are so many individuals that the ones that people don't know, but amazing stories. I'm working with a project in Uganda. There's Precious with the Precious Kids Foundation, and I went with them last year, and just in 2 days, the Precious Kids Foundation treated more than 4,000 individuals, from tooth extractions to right now. There's kids that are receiving surgeries because of the funding that PKF, the Precious Kids, is raising. Just unbelievable surgeries. There was one boy, and Troy, is so unbelievable. His scrotum sac, was about the size of my forearm. This is a 2-year-old kid, and his scrotum is laying there almost the size of his leg, and his intestines were going down into his scrotum. This is a child that is now has had.
What was it?
I forget what it's called, but the intestines were actually going down into his scrotum. I forget what it's called. But he's now normal. And because of that organization, that surgery was done. I mean, there's just, I've raised over 30 million. My organization alone has developed over 600 organizations operating globally. So I could go on and on and on about the no-name individuals that people don't know, and the thousands of lives that are being impacted just because someone cares, because of the social entrepreneurship that continues to happen under this arena. So, yeah, I could take up days giving you stories.
I love it. I love it. So at this point in time, you're still, I don't know, this seems like it's something, you hear about people making their money, making their chunks of money, their tens of millions of dollars. You hear about Warren Buffett saying, and all the billionaires talking about how much money they want to give away. And I know they've been doing philanthropy throughout their lives, and I wouldn't not think that. But it seems like you started like that. Do you ever retire? Oh, yeah. Do you ever retire from that?
No. That's like retiring from who you are. Now, speaking of Warren Buffett, there's a video out that he talks about. First of all, you got to go look at the Giving Pledge. Go to givingpledge.org, givingpledge.org. And that's where almost 200 billionaires have signed a pledge that they're giving 50 to 90% of their wealth away from now on. That's added over 900 trillion billion, 900 billion to the nonprofit arena annually. Okay. See, most of the time when people think about funding and grants, they only think of government grants, and there's so much more. But one of the things that Warren Buffett says is making money is easy. He says it's easy for him. The hard part is giving it away. And not that he doesn't want to give it away, but the hard part is giving it away to organizations where his ROI is going to be realized. When I say ROI now in the for-profit arena, ROI is return on investment. But in the nonprofit arena, I like to use ROI for return on impact. He wants to give to organizations that are going to have an impact, not getting money back. And so that's all a grant proposal is, Troy, is it helps an organization to write a clear and concise plan that's going to show how they're going to have an impact. And the grant funders, which are also investors, they just want to see a good clear-cut plan to show that their dollars are going to make a difference, not that they're giving the money to get a return from their money after 3 years or 5 years, like in the for-profit arena. So a grant proposal is what does that. It's like a big fat resume to show that you're going to have impact. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, my kids are over here just having a ball.
I don't know what's going on. Like I told y'all, if y'all just tuning in somewhere in an interview, or piece of it is going to be on IGTV. You got to go to YouTube to watch the whole interview. There are animals and lions and tigers and bears going on. She's in a real farm.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! What's that from? Am I dating myself for real? Right?
No. It's if I know about it, everybody knows about the Wizard of Oz. Y'all know, right?
Yeah.
So amazing. Where would you like to be in the next 5 years? What would you like to be working on? What's a passion project for you beyond what you've done? I mean, it could be anything, not just
right.
Because you're doing the thing, you're doing the help. But what's something like, you know what? I always wanted to open that, or
I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now all my life. Even when I was a director at the YMCA there in Los Angeles, we had a camp up in Big Bear called Camp Whittle. And it was wilderness just like this. And that's where we would take more than 100 to 200 kids to camp every summer. And I loved Camp Whittle. I mean, it was truly in the woods. And when the director position came available, I applied 2 or 3 times. I just didn't get it because they couldn't see that I had the experience, because I didn't have it as professional experience. But I've always wanted to live in the woods. I've always loved country. And so, again, I can't wait to share the story of how this came about. But I'm doing it now. And I have helped develop programs all over the world, from youth programs to horticulture, gardening. And that's why right next door to here, I have a greenhouse, because it's something
and to touch on that, I want you to, share. I want you to share. We got time. I want you to talk about how you found out about how this came about, because it is divine providence the way it lined up.
Well, for one, like I said, this is my great grandfather's land, handed down to him from my great grandfather. And right across the street was his brother, and up the hill was another brother. Right next door, this whole hill was called Kennedy Hill. My grandmother's maiden name was Kennedy. There's even a large stream that's now called Kennedy Branch. But ever since my great grandfather passed away in 1975, no one has done anything with this land. I didn't even know it was still here. I'd come here when I was a young girl with my grandmother. The outhouse that I even used is still standing, barely. But I said to my husband, don't tear it down. I'm going to do something with that, But we were touring in our RV after Ray and I met. Matter of fact, not even a month after we met, we started touring because I've always hated to fly. And this is, again, Troy, how God works things out when you just stay faithful and stay true to what he has blessed you to do. And I've always hated to fly, even though I was flying sometimes 3-4 times a month to speaking engagements. And I meet Ray, and he has this 38-foot RV, right? And that was one of my draws to him too, because he had left the city and was living on the lake, and I'm like, what? And he thought that I would look down on him, and that was my draw, right? And he said, I just like a simpler life. What? And so then.
Oh yeah, I want some guineas and some cats climbing walls, girl.
What? And he loved to fish. And Troy, I love to fish. I used to always go fishing with my dad. Look, one time I even wrote on this dating site, what do you love to do? And I said, nothing thrills me more than sitting on the dock, fishing, eating sardines and cinnamon rolls. Because that's what my dad loved to eat. Like sweet and salty together.
Girl, you don't understand. Sweet, I'm getting my vitamin D from these sardines. The sardines is the most nutritious thing in the world. You don't even understand what's happening.
Oh my gosh.
Milk, you know that.
So the thing is, so we're touring in the RV, and I'm doing my speaking engagements instead of flying. We were gone like a month at a time, sometimes 2 months. We've gone through 23 states. So anyway, I was in DC. I had just done this big conference with the Power Networking Conference with George Fraser. And my uncle, that was a mayor of a small town here in Arkansas, called me and said, look, are you still on your tour? And I said, yeah, Unc, I am. And he was wanting to go after this major grant, which they ended up getting. They got $500,000 grant. My cats are over there raising Cain. They got this $500,000 grant to put a new road through the town. Well, Ray and I ended up coming through, and I did the workshop that weekend with his staff, showing them the what you should write in the grants and things like that. And we were just going to stay that weekend. We ended up staying a month because we liked Arkansas so much, but it wasn't even on our radar. Even though Ray was born and raised here, he had never lived here. I mean, his mom had taken him away as an infant. And so, but see, God works things out. So my uncle, who is living on the land where my father was born, because remember when I met Ray, I asked him, maybe we're cousins because my dad was born in that area. My uncle's living on the land where my father was born. And he was going to give us an acre of land because I did a whole lot of work for him, trained his staff and yada, yada. And he said, you know what, you've earned this. Well, it worked out that didn't happen. So I just said, well, Lord, okay, well, Ray and I we've decided to, for some reason, you brought us here to Arkansas. So my aunt, who lives in Kansas City, my mom's sister, I talk to her every morning over coffee. And so I'm on the phone and I'm looking through the newspaper, and she says, baby, what you doing? I hear all that paper in the background. And I guess it was from me flipping the pages. And I said, well, Ray and I were looking for some land here in Arkansas because that didn't work out with Aunt. I really want to be here, and so does he. And she said, well, we still got that land up there in those hills, up in those sticks, but you probably don't want to be up there. And I was like, what land? And she said, baby, the land where Big Mama was born. What? Ray and I got in the truck, drove up here that day. That was last January. About a year and a half ago. We drove up here that day, and I cried. And I just did not realize that the land was still in our family. And Troy, and I'm talking now to individuals that are sitting on their air property. Troy, do you know at the beginning of 1910, the African-American families had more than 30 million acres across the United States. Do you know now it's down to under 3 million? We are losing our air property quicker than anyone else. Stop it. We're losing our air property quicker than anyone else. It's sad. And I cried, Troy, because the dishonor that we've done to my great grandfather and our ancestors can you imagine how hard? I mean, we've got 30 acres here, and this is after a lot of the land has been bought, sold, or lost. And so to even just preserve this 30 acres, and that's why this barn means so much to me, because even the nails, Troy, I've got a can over there where even the old nails that we've pulled out, I saved, because also as an artist, I'm going to do something with them. But can you imagine how hard it was? I saw a receipt that my great grandfather had. Matter of fact, when I first moved to Los Angeles, my grandmother, who was born here, gave me her father's trunk, the great grandfather whose land I'm on, because I've always loved old things, right? And I took that trunk with me to California. Troy, the trunk has come home. When you just stay true to who you are, when you just work with what God has given you, I'm telling you, God does not do things just because. A tree that's blooming right now and another one is dying out, it was created that way for a reason, for a balance. So why is it that we don't realize that the gifts that God has given us, whether it's singing, whether you're a wordsmith, whether you're a painter, if you just operate in that, with faith comes finance. I'm here to tell you that whatever gifts God gave you, if you just know that you can work in it. He does not play. He didn't do it just because. If you stay true to that, with faith comes finance. He does not give us gifts that we can't survive off of. He just doesn't operate in that fashion. So, yeah, yeah. So I'm here, and the trunk has come home.
I'd be crazy to say anything else. You know, I love talking to you because we can talk for hours, but I want to leave people on that tip. And
Yeah.
I know people may have a bunch of questions, but I want them to reach out to you. I want them to, you're a touchable person, but
okay.
That was that for me was my sermon for anybody. This 2020, that was probably the most. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being so loving, so caring. Tell people how to get in touch with you. Tell people how they can reach out to you, how they can get in touch with you, talk your company, your website.
Well, they can go to my website. I know it's a long word, but it's philanthropyalliance.org. Philanthropyalliance.org. And matter of fact, my new blog is launching today. It's called Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo stands for You Are Your Only Limitation. And it's going to be launching late this evening. And it's not only about my life and taking chances and being who you are, but there's and I need to do an article on you because there's a section about love and relationships, and it's never too late. And it's about Ray and I. My husband Ray is also an absolutely phenomenal grill master. You've seen his grill. Matter of fact, some people ask where we're going to do cremating because his grill is 9 feet long. It's about our homesteading and showing what's going on as far as our animals.
I'm coming there to do, you know, for anybody who may be producing my TV show when it comes, or if we find whatever, I am coming there to do something, and me and old Ray gonna dance on that grill. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Grill, I saw that grill. I was like, but amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so when they go to my website, there's a subscribe button. And if they subscribe, we send out free grant information. I send out information about business development. They'll get information about our regular blog. And so, yeah, go to philanthropyalliance.org. Now, there's one thing that I also want to say to you and to most individuals that are like you and I. When we're giving individuals, there's a term that a lot of people go by as a social entrepreneur. But also, Troy, you should have on your website that you are a philanthropist. See, people think that you only use that title when you're a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett. No, philanthropist and philanthropy is when you are a giver, when you have a life of giving, when you make a difference with people. And it doesn't matter the dollar amount. It could be that you are a habitual volunteer. You are a philanthropist. And Troy, the moment you start wearing that title and it starts appearing on whether it's your resume, your website, it should be on everything. You wait until you see the difference in how people respond to you and knowing that you also are a philanthropist. So again, philanthropyalliance.org.
Amazing. Amazing. Like I said, and y'all see beautiful inside and out. Every time. I'm trying to hold it together. You almost had me do it. You almost had me. Almost got me. You
Wow.
almost had me. You almost messed me up. I put a tie on. I'll be crying like I'm at a funeral. I love you, Sherita, I appreciate you so much. Thank you
I
for
love
taking
you
some
too,
time out
Marcus.
with me. And
Yeah.
well, you blessed a lot of people, but I know this is going to bless a lot of people, especially we need it right now. And
Yeah.
I believe, and I say this before, and I'm not saying this because I'm not saying God allows some kind of thing but I know this is a time, this is supposed to be a time of rest, a time of Sabbath, and a time of restructuring, renewal, for people to realize that, God is real and he's like the perfect parent. He got everything you need. And
Yes.
and if you just be your authentic self, and if you can't find your authentic self, take a minute to talk to somebody like Sherita and look at her website and reach out, and you'd be some amazing like I said, as much stuff as I do, the people to know me, and for her to say, Troy, everything you have can you're good. And philanthropy is the base of me. I call myself a servant leader. That's all philanthropy seems like it is, being servant leader.
That's
Servant
all
leadership.
it is. Yes. Yes. Yes, it is.
All right.
Yeah. And
I'll let you go.
there's a grant for that.
There's a grant for that. Yeah, there's a grant for
Yeah.
that. And I love it because, like I said, if you're a business owner, if you're a nonprofit owner, if you're not a business owner, reach out to Sherita. Share this interview, because with at least 2-3 people, you'll bless somebody. And I appreciate you so much, Sherita. So
Thank
ready to
you.
fire the grill. I got to set a time, but we're gonna dance on that grill. I'm gonna bring Zoe, and we're gonna.
We will love it. We will love it, and we're making room for you.
Yeah, I heard log cabin stuff. Okay. Remember you said that. I'll be there with the little knapsack. Remember they had the sack on the stick with I don't know what that was.
like you were running away. I gotta say this. My cousin said that my little white dog Joy, Ray and I have had her since we met, and now with all these other animals, she says my dog Joy calls her and says she's gonna run away. She said, "Girl, you could picture her walking down the street with the little stick, with the little red, bandana filled with her little stuff, her little dog food. She's gonna run away." Yeah.
Who's in those little bandanas? Who's sitting there? Yeah. Like one pair of underwear. Just...
Yeah. Troy, thank you. This has been a joy.
I appreciate you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. And I'm excited to get this out to the masses, because people need to know. Just people like you and I. There's nothing can stop you if you move forward in it. So I appreciate you. Love you.
Yes, love you too.
Talk to you soon.